Okay, I want to thank you all again for attending the Symbiota Working Group webinar series. This is our fourth one out of 4 for the fall and our 10 out of 10 and last one for the year 2016. So it looks like another great turnout given finals week for most people and being close to the holidays. So this will be a relatively short webinar. It's not too complicated to link up genetic data to and from the Symbiota portals. So I'll go ahead and just go through this. If anyone has any questions, by all means, go ahead and type in the chat box. Or if you want to unmute your microphones and talk, that's perfectly fine as well. So I'm Andrew Miller. I'm from the Illinois Natural History Survey. And I'll be talking on our Symbiota Working Group webinar, linking genetic data to and from Symbiota portals. So just to point out that this resource, this workflow guide for linking genetic data between Symbiota portals and GenBank is on our website. So right here you can get the workflow. If you go to this address here, you can see we have a lot of different project documentations, a lot of different workflow guides on here, including this one. All of them have been translated into Spanish as well, so you can click English or Spanish version as you like. So please go ahead and visit that, and you can download those. I also put up the workflow guides here as well, the English and Spanish versions. These are the direct links to those workflow guides. If you want to go ahead and download those as a PDF to follow through at a later time. So everything I'll be talking about today pretty much follows these workflow guides. So this is a two-step process for linking genetic data from your Symbiota portal to GenBank. And then the second step, of course, is linking GenBank to Symbiota portals. So like I said, it's a two-step process, and we will go ahead and obviously talk about the first one first and the second one second. So today we're going to be using as an example portal the Mycology Collections portal, or the MyCo portal. That's just the one I'm most familiar with since I'm the lead PI on the microfungi TCN. But I believe that all of the other portals pretty much behave identical. Things should be in similar places. So it shouldn't be too hard for anyone using one of the plant or bryophyte or lichen portals to replicate what I talk about today. So the first thing you would want to do is to pull up an occurrence record. So throughout today's webinar, you'll be following the red pointy finger here, okay? And this will show you kind of where you want to click and where you want to go in order to complete this process. So like I said, the first thing I'm going to talk about is linking specimen records with genetic data from your Symbiota portal to GenBank. And the first thing you do is pull up whatever occurrence record it is from where the genetic data came from that voucher specimen. Okay. So far we don't have any mechanisms for batching any of this stuff yet, but it wouldn't be hard to do, as you see throughout the seminar or the webinar. It's pretty easy. All of this data goes into one table, so it wouldn't be hard to actually batch process this and upload a CSV file to batch this if you prefer it that way, rather than doing it one by one. But for today's purposes, I'm just going to show you how to link it one at a time. So the first step is go ahead and pull up your occurrence record you would like to add the genetic data to, and click on this Linked Resources tab that you see up here. What that's going to do is bring you to a page that looks like this for that occurrence record. My favorite saying is anything useful in Symbiota is always hidden behind a red pencil or a green cross, and this holds true for this one as well. So you're going to want to click the green cross there in order to reveal the genetic resources that you'll be typing into. So click that. That's going to show you the table for the genetic resources. Hi, Shelley. It looks like you're mousing over a lot, so if you can maybe refrain from your mouse, that'd be great. Thanks. All right. So once you click on that green cross, the genetic resources opens up into this very similar or simple table in which you really only have 5 fields. for which must be completed, but the notes field at the bottom can remain empty. So you're going to want to complete your necessary fields according to the genetic data that you have for this specific specimen. The name, of course, would be GenBank or BOLD or whatever genetic database you're linking to. Most people are going to be linking to GenBank, so that's the example I'm going to use today. You would want to type in the identifier, which means that is the GenBank accession number. So you would need to know what that is. And then locus is the name of the gene. I wrote in standardize, and we could always talk more about that later. I was searching a lot this week for some standardized names of genes, and unfortunately they don't really exist to my knowledge. I couldn't find any, but I'm happy to talk about that more later if someone knows standardized names of genes. So you would probably just type in your gene name as it appears in GenBank or however you think it looks best. And then finally the URL, which is the link to the GenBank record, should be filled out as well. And I'll show you what that looks like. Once you go ahead and fill that out, like I said, with the GenBank name, your accession number, which usually starts with 2 letters and then has 6 numbers following it, that's the standardized GenBank format for their accession numbers. You would type in your locus or your gene name, and then pretty much the URL, which is exactly the same, except for that unique accession number at the end. They would link that directly to the record in GenBank. Once you go ahead and type that in, then you click on Add New Genetic Resource, and it is then added and saved in Symbiota. Okay, and then it should look something like this. It will drop down to the bottom, and you can see the information that you just entered, and you know that it's saved once you see this. Okay, so the next step would be if you had some more genetic data that you wanted to add, you would go ahead and click the red pencil. And that would pop up the screen again, and you could start all over, and you can add additional genes as you like. For today's purposes, we'll just add this single gene to not make it too complicated, but you would basically just go ahead and repeat that process again that I just showed you if you wanted to add additional genetic data. Okay, I just wanted to show you also that this does become a hyperlink as well. So if you go ahead and click on that directly, it will take you directly to the GenBank record for that at NCBI. So that's what I did. I went ahead and clicked on that, and here we see the rhizopulgon panicula. This is the isolate, the genetic data that is should be linked now from Symbiota into GenBank. So from now on, when anyone goes into Symbiota, if they click on that link, it will take you directly to the GenBank accession record. Just a couple things I wanted to point out down here in the source data for those of you familiar with submitting sequences to GenBank. Most of the time, this data is not filled out very well at all, which is the real problem. Is you may be lucky if you have an isolate number or maybe some vague or ambiguous specimen voucher number. And this is one of the issues we're trying to solve now, the genetics community and the collections community, is to have a better link between the genetic data and link that back to the specimen records. All of us are collections people. We want to make collections as important as possible and highlight it as possible, and this is one way to do it, is to actually add good data, specimen data, into your GenBank records and then vice versa as well. So this is a very well populated record in GenBank, which includes a lot of information, including the isolate, the isolation source, the voucher specimen, the country where it came from, even the collector date and the collector is in there, in addition to the type specimen. So a notation, it's a type specimen. But this is certainly a needle in a haystack. You very seldom do you see records this well populated. So anyway, that's the genetic GenBank record. What you see now is that once you link these things back and forth, you're going to have something that pops up here in the link out to external sources. So this specific sequence was already linked to the Silva LSU database. It's also now linked to the Mycology Collections portal as well, and I'll show you that again a little bit later in my talk, but I just thought I'd point it out now. And if you click on that link, so let me go back again. If you click on the Mycology Collections portal right there in blue, it's going to take you directly to this specimen record. So now if you go to that record in GenBank, anyone in the world that pulls up that genetic sequence can find additional specimen voucher data, metadata about this actual specimen, where the genetic information came from. So it takes you here to this voucher specimen page, the general public page, in which most people that don't have a login would, this is what they would be able to see. Okay, so the next thing, if you wanted to look at the genetic data for the specimen voucher, you would click on genetic data. You would think that you might click on link resources because that's the tab that you clicked on in order to add the genetic data, but that's not the case. So we need to talk with Ben and Ed about standardizing some of the nomenclature as far as it entails Symbiota software and some of these tabs and links. So we may want to work on that so that it's a little bit more standardized. So if you're clicking on genetic data, it's just genetic data. It's not link resources or genetic data. But anyway, bear with me. If you wanted to add genetic data, you would click on link resources from the occurrence record. But now if you want to see the genetic data in this page, you have to click on genetic data, not link resources. And when you do that, again, it comes back to something that looks like this, and this is all of your identifier, locus, and URL information that we had input previously. Okay, so that's pretty much about it. If anyone has any questions, like I say, it's pretty straightforward, but feel free to type in the chat box or raise your hand or just go ahead and interrupt me. But I've now taken you through the first step of how you link specimen records with genetic data from Symbiota portals to GenBank. The next step is linking them back again now so that you actually get that Mycology Collections portal, or whatever the name of your portal is, so that you get that in the NCBI database, and that will link back to your specimen vouchers. So seeing no questions or concerns, I'm going to go ahead and continue on with the second part of how to link back again. It's a little bit more involved. It's clearly not as straightforward as the Symbiota software is for linking out. But for linking back to your portal, there's a couple things that you're going to have to do. Excuse me. So to create links to your portal, NCBI, their team, they need two XML files. One's called an identity file and one's called a resource file. And as far as most users are concerned, they really don't have to deal with this. What I would recommend is that each of the individual portals designate someone to do this for them. So it could either be your portal manager, who probably is already overtasked and has too much other things to do, or it could just be someone in your portal network that is willing to take on this task and do a few things to kind of be the genetics manager for your portal. So the first thing this person would do, not all the users need to do this, only one person per portal needs to do this. You need to create an identity file, and you can see the example below. And this gets emailed to the link out team at NCBI. I do have a note on here, of course, in my instructions to the MycoPortal users not to go do this. Please email us at help@mycoportal.org, and then we provide you with the necessary information you need to link up the records from GenBank back to Symbiota. But anyway, for the person designated for each of these portals that wants to take on this task, the identity file is what they need to create, and they need to provide that to the link out team. I have some details here how it needs to be named with providerinfo.xml. It's case sensitive. You're going to want to use a text editor such as Notepad or Text Wrangler, and not do it in something like Word, a word processing program. And then once you send that to the link out staff, they're going to assign you with what they call a provider ID. So for example, like that Silva LSU database, they have one single provider ID. So the MycoPortal would have a single provider ID. The Bryophyte portal would have a provider ID. The Lichen portal, macroalgae, Cernac, the plant, or Cynet, the plant portal, would have a unique one provider ID per portal. So that's how that works. And yeah, I went back and forth with GenBank quite a bit getting this all figured out. There's a lot of instructions online that you can go and look at for how to do this, but it's pretty straightforward. So like I said, you would just go ahead and fill out that little identity file example with your information, not the microportal information, with your information and send it in. And then you go ahead and get set up, and it only takes just a couple days. So that's the first step. And then the second one is in which all users can be involved is creating your resource file. And this is what you're going to end up sending to GenBank so that they can ingest it into their database and link the genetic data back to your portals. And this looks a little onerous at first, but it's not. It's really quite simple. You can create your resource file as an XML, CSV, or simple text. I preferred the choice of CSV file. It seemed the easiest for me just to go ahead and do that in Microsoft Excel. There's a lot of options and drag down menus and copy and paste that you can use. And then just save your Excel file as a CSV file. And here I give the link for other methods. If you want to boldly go where I haven't gone, you can try an XML or a simple text file. But I found the CSV file to work quite easy for the links that we had recently made. So what you'll see is a CSV file here with A, B, C, D, E, F, and G columns. Only 7 of them. It's not too bad, especially since you're going to leave a couple of them blank anyway, and some are just repetitious. They don't change. So in column A is where you put your provider ID, and that would be your own unique ID number that the NCBI LinkOut staff has assigned to you. The database is a nucleotide database in our case. If you're linking genomic data, then it would be genomic data. There's more instructions online for the different options, but most of us, if we're linking up just genetic nucleotide sequences, you would just put nucleotide down for everything. And then the UID, or the query, they call it 2 different things, that's basically just your GenBank accession number for the gene sequence that you want to link, okay, to your occurrence record. And then you need to follow this by ACCN in brackets. So this is really one of the 2 pieces of data that you're going to be inputting into the CSV file. The other one is the URL. And as you can see, it's standardized URL that is specific to that occurrence record where you want to link back to it again. So that's how GenBank knows where to link it to. So it links back directly to your portal occurrence record. Each occurrence record has a unique OCC ID, or the occurrence ID, and I'm going to show you where you can find that in just a minute. But what you can see is all of those are unique for each row as well. They tell you that the icon URL and the URL name is required, but then they told me to leave it blank. So I'm not for sure what to put in there. You don't really need to worry about it. The subject type is, again, very similar to database. It's all the same thing. It's herbarium museum collections, at least in most of our cases. It's all going to be the same. So like I said, the only real 2 pieces of information that change or that you have to add in a CSV file is just your UID, the unique GenBank accession number, and then the unique OCC ID number, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because you're linking one unique genetic sequence back to a unique occurrence record. So it's pretty simple. So in order to find that unique OCC ID number, I have that up here at the top. This is the resource file example that I just got done showing you. The second red finger points to one of 2 places where you'll find that. When you pull up your occurrence records, you can see it in the URL at the top of that occurrence record. Some of you may not be aware is OCC ID number equals is right there. It's in the URL. Another place you can find it is down towards the bottom, and it's called a key here. So again, with the Symbiota nomenclature, I'm not for sure why that hasn't been renamed to OCC ID as opposed to key, because that's exactly what it is. So there's 2 different places in your occurrence records where you can find that OCC ID number to fill out your resource file for GenBank. Okay, and then step 3 is using the instructions provided by NCBI LinkOut staff. You're going to want to FTP your identity and resource files to NCBI. I believe you only have to FTP your identity file once, but I can't remember. It's been a while since I did this. But anyway, they just give you the information on where to FTP it. It's really simple. If anyone's ever FTP'd anything to Florida, to iDig Bio, it's pretty much the same thing. You just put in your information, and you FTP this to NCBI, and then you basically just wait around for a couple days and confirm that the GenBank sequences have been linked to your portal's occurrence records through their link out feature. So again, like I said, after you've submitted this data, they may send it back to you and say, please change this or change that. They go ahead and curate it and verify that everything's correct. And then you can go check out some of your records, and this is what you should end up seeing, is your portal name here shown in the link out to external resources for those ones that you've linked. Okay, so just the very last thing I want to mention today, this is quite a short webinar, is just a little bit about the provider statistics that you get. So you do get some data back from GenBank. The link out collects statistics on the number of clicks on each provider's links in the link out display. They're emailed to you each month, or actually to the whoever the link out contact is for your specific portal. And if anyone wants to receive these statistics, I think they're more than happy to add on additional members. So you can just notify the link out team to find out what the stats are for how many people are linking to this. They're sent through the email. You get your yearly and monthly totals, and there's also a CSV file attached as well, so you can get your statistics. And they warn you that the stats may change for the first 2 weeks until they're kind of stabilized, but after 2 weeks, then you'll receive your stats. So here's just an example of what some of the stats look like. So in this case, this has increased from 11 hits all the way up to 126 hits. Some months you have more hits than others. So it's a very simplified type of statistics. But nonetheless, if you get a lot of genetic resources added in, that could increase. So just for fun, I went and searched how many fungal sequences we have in GenBank. It's over 7 million. And so far, MycoPortal has linked only 2,373 specimen vouchers to those genetic records. So obviously, we have a long way to go, but at least it's a start, right? It's better than nothing. So another couple tricks that I learned from GenBank is also limiting the search to records with links to a specific resource. You can do this in a couple different ways. So if you just type in LOPROV and then that specific name of your portal, whatever it is, in this case MycoPortal, and then filter in brackets, it gets you all the link records for the MycoPortal. So as other portals set up like this, you could basically just do a quick filter, a search in GenBank, and get all the records for a certain portal. If you wanted to search for a specific portal and a specific collection, then you just put the word "and" all in capitals and the name of the collection abbreviation. So in this case, Michigan. And I just show a couple examples of those quickly. Again, showing that we have 2,373 records that have been linked from the MycoPortal to GenBank and back and forth by using that search criteria. Just typing that in the nucleotide and hitting search brings up all the records. And then again, showing you what I just got done saying about Michigan. We can see that Michigan has 225 sequences linked up. So anyone can do this once they get the things linked up and established. And it does seem to make a much powerful resource for linking your genetic records to and from Symbiota portals. So, okay, with that, I want to thank everyone for their attention. Wish you all a happy holidays. I'm more than happy to take any questions. But like I said, our linking resources are all on our website, or this webinar obviously is being recorded, so it'll be under the Symbiota Working Group webinars recordings, so that you can go back and listen to it again if you prefer that method. So more than happy if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, it's a bit of a short webinar today. It's not too complicated to link these back and forth. So Scott LaGreca would like to know, so you can link multiple sequences to one specimen. Yes, that's absolutely right. I haven't tested the limits of that yet, Scott. how many you can actually add. But I know we do have some specimen vouchers that have up to 3 or 4 genes already linked to them, to that individual, back to that specimen voucher. Excuse me. So as all of us that are concerned about collections, I do think it's important to link back to the specimen voucher for many different reasons. Yeah, that's exactly right. There's a lot of studies using multiple loci out there. So it's even more important when you have more than one gene sequence and multiple loci to know where that actual specimen voucher is. If you want to go back and re-identify it or examine it for whatever reasons, it's nice to get this data obviously linked from the genetic resources back to our portals, which makes both resources more important. Okay, Mike wants to know, do you have to send the full list of all link outs every time you make an addition, or can you just send the new additions? That's a great question, Mike. I apologize for not actually addressing that. I should have done that. So far we just have sent one full list of link outs. I think we sent it was about 2,000 the first time, and then we sent the other 373 the next time. And we're working on our 3rd edition right now. So again, that's why I say you should probably go ahead and each portal should identify a portal manager, or I'm sorry, a genetics manager, something like this to manage this. And then all of the participants can just go ahead and send their CSV files to that one person, and they could just collate it and then send it in on a monthly basis or weekly basis. Depends on how fast the data comes in. But no, you can certainly send that in each time. So we have kind of a working CSV file now, and we just make sure we have the dates on it, that we've sent it from this date to this date. So Tanya says there's often hundreds of sequences in a study. Each would need to be entered individually into Symbiota. Yes, that's the case as it is right now, Tanya. That's exactly right. So we don't have any batch uploads right now for this genetic data into Symbiota. But that's certainly something we could put on the wish list and think about having Ed or Ben program into Symbiota where we could maybe batch this a little easier based on OCC ID or the catalog number or whatever. I believe this genetic resources table is a separate table to itself, a MySQL table. So it should be easy enough to do just to batch those 4 or 5 fields together and just batch those directly into Symbiota, which would certainly make life go a lot quicker. I think one of the things that we had the most trouble with was sometimes linking up the specimen voucher with the data that we had in GenBank, not knowing exactly they would use a different unique number. And it wouldn't be a collector number or accession number or barcode number or catalog number or anything like that. It'd be something else, that a strain number that maybe wasn't entered into Symbiota. So that was a bit of a problem. So Jonathan would like to know how much you think it would cost to program batch processing. I have a project that will produce optionally 4 loci for 4,000 specimens, so programming cost estimate. I'm certainly more than happy to ask Ben that. I'm not thinking, I'm not much of a programmer, but it doesn't seem very complicated to do something simple like this for batching it. So I wouldn't think it would cost that much. But certainly let me go ahead and ask Ben that question and see what Ben thinks about going ahead and just getting a very rudimentary, simple batch processing program to go ahead and batch genetic data. So, yeah, no, I would obviously batch processing would make life a lot easier for all of us if we could do that. So I'll go ahead and try to talk to Ben over the holidays about that, and I'll let you know, Jonathan, what sort of a cost estimate for something like that would be. As many of you probably know, we already have a full list on the wish list. I think it's somewhere around 75 or 76 wishes for updating Symbiota software. And very few of those actually have funds provided to get them done. So Ben and Ed try to do the best they can and go through them as they can. But yeah, it does take some time.